We're hearing from local school leaders after Kansas lawmakers introduce a bill.
This will require parents to verify income for their child to qualify for free school lunch. Sophia Jernander breaks down that bill and what public schools are saying about it. Sophia?
Mike and Rachel, it's been the subject of discussion among parents and teachers, a bill that would require all parents to provide proof of income for their children to get free lunch at school. But Wichita Public Schools says it would be impossible for them to comply with the bill's requirements.
It's not possible for a district our size.
A bill going through the Kansas Senate would require parents to verify their income so that their children can have free and reduced lunches.
We cannot, according to USDA guidelines, verify more than 3,000 applications.
Vicki Schumacher with Wichita Public Schools says the USDA requires them to verify applications within the first 10 days of the school year, making these requirements impossible.
The daily work would increase exponentially. My office would turn into an auditing firm. We would have to hire more staff.
Schumacher says these applications would only increase following cuts to SNAP benefits in the 2025 federal spending bill.
It will increase the number of free and reduced applications we get.
I asked some Wichita students what they think of the legislation.
I like having free lunch, so that way my parents don't have to pay.
Seems like they're doing it to force us to pay money just to get food.
Schumacher explains legislators believe there is fraud involved with free lunch applications. She says there are other ways to solve the problem.
There's no reason to look at doing 100%. Maybe increase the percentage a small amount.
The end result is that the school district will take a financial hit. Schumacher says even if they can't verify all applications, Wichita children won't go without food.
Hungry kids cannot excel in school. Kids need to be fed. Meal payment is an adult problem, not a child problem, and we're going to feed kids regardless.
Public testimony was heard last week by the Committee on Government Efficiency. Now they have to decide whether to pass this bill out of committee. I'll be at the State House tomorrow to speak with legislators about the issue.